Hey, everybody, we are back, and we are live in the studio with an audience of one. I won't say who it is, but we got a brand new employee here working with us from the high school. She's a co-op student. So
we're trying not to traumatize her too much off the bat.
We're already traumatizing enough, but we're glad you could join us this Tuesday afternoon at 2:03 p.m., and we're kind of excited about what's kind of going on. I'm actually kind of excited, Earlene, that the election is over.
Boy, howdy.
Yeah, there are some nasty people out there that have mean things to say all the time.
It got really rough. It got rough. I mean, unless you just had your head in the sands and didn't get on any social media or even just go into a restaurant or out the shop or whatever. I mean, we were inundated with all of the negativity and the lack of hearing each other out. I mean, it got pretty rough.
But it was I think I quoted it, Dr. Zeus Sneetches, right?
Sneetches.
Yeah. So I always think that's a great reference, even for children, if they are growing up and learning and trying to understand, you know, what makes somebody. Nobody's different. We're all the same human beings on this earth.
Yeah, we are.
And stuff. So you don't need a star in your chest to differentiate yourself from others. We're all one community. But you know, the elections went well. I thought Miss Susan Masterson from the clerk's office did a phenomenal job. I know we had some complaints that came in. I think one came in. Did that go out in an editorial this week from Carolyn Redmond?
Yes.
Yeah, so there was a concern we got from one of our citizens, Carolyn Redmond. You know, we did not get the results out in a broadcast, you know, and maybe that's something we can do in the future from this platform. But it was an interesting point because a lot of people didn't know what happened on election night last Tuesday. And now, of course, we've come, you know, a full week since the election. And interesting fact is when there's write-ins, they have to manually count because you wrote it in.
Right.
And they have to take all of those ballots out of the box, which means you have to go through every single ballot that was scanned in and dropped into a lockbox to find all of the write-ins that were measured by the machine.
And people think it's funny to write in something like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Or, you know, whatever, just something like that. And so Stephen Spahn wrote a story, and it's coming out tomorrow, and it says at the top of it, it says, making sure your vote counts in Meade County. And he explains the entire process because he was there actually working for the Associated Press.
Yep.
And which is phenomenal that we have a writer that was chosen by
the Kentucky Press Association.
Yes, exactly.
Which we're a member of.
Right, we are. And
legitimate news source for Meade County.
Okay. And so
Fort Knox. But that's a valid point. I need to make I need to stress that.
He does. He needs to let you guys know that we are the real deal. Sometimes people might not understand how qualified we are to be here. But we are definitely here to do this. And anyway, it was great that Stephen got to do that as Stephen Spahn. And but he wrote a couple of sentences about how amazing it was that people would write in Superman or their donkey's name or something like that.
Yeah, and it was because they were opposed to whoever was on the ballot.
Right.
And you can actually just not vote instead of wasting the time and just not put something in there instead of checking a write-in. It's called an undervote when you are of a party but you don't vote for the category. City elections, there was a lot of write-ins. And the other interesting fact is, like you said, Superman, you actually, to be a write-in candidate, you have to meet the qualifications, and to be a write-in, otherwise, just because I put my name down or I said, Steve Lake, vote for Steve Lake, as a write-in, that vote does not count, and it gets marked
unless
off.
You have gone through that process.
That's right.
To be allowed to do that,
and
people don't realize that.
Yeah, and there's cutoff dates. You have to actually have presented yourself, and actually to be submitted for a write-in, you've got to meet certain qualifications too for the Secretary of the State's site. Now, the other interesting fact to this was the reason why we didn't get play-by-play by precinct as they came in is because the Secretary of State's office had communicated to all the county clerks. Now, they all didn't necessarily follow the instructions of the Secretary of State, but ours did.
Ours did.
And what they didn't want to do, what they said to do, was make sure that all the precincts were in before you released the results, which is where they pin them to the glass window behind, and you can get it from the window on the outside of the courthouse building. And that's why we didn't get the precincts as they were rolling in one at a time for Meade County, which, you know, and they came in, I'd say probably around the 9 o'clock hour, 10 o'clock hour. So 3 hours after the polls closed, they had to do all of these precincts and then the write-in ballots. I honestly think the biggest write-in areas were probably in the Brandenburg voting precincts because of the mayor, the city offices that were up for election, and other stuff. But at the end of the day, they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, Meade County did a great job. All of the officers and offices that are in charge of that. And
the volunteers.
Yeah, amazing. We really did. When Eddie and I went, we waited until Tuesday. And we went over to Stuart Pepper, and we just slid right in. We went, chop, 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 no problem at all. No wait, no nothing. Everything was just smooth as could be, in and out.
I was still a little surprised at the voter turnout. The unofficial results are out. The Secretary of State's site posted that, and I got a little story in there about it this week, but the Secretary of State's site posted that they weren't going to official results because they have a requirement to validate at least one of the voting machines in every county. And while that process, what that means is they take out all of the written in ballots and they have to count them manually, and every vote that's on that ballot, and it has to 100% match the machine. Otherwise, there's other inquiries that have to take place. And that's why we don't have an official results. And while most of the results have been posted out across the county, they're not disputed or contested for our county and this area. So I think that's good. It's another testament to the volunteers and the work that they do to make sure that everything was done right. But when we get the official results, we will do all of them by precinct and who voted, the number of voters, Republican, Democrat. And the thing that I got on the unofficial results that were produced by the county, I think I was actually kind of disappointed at the number of people that turned out.
60% of the population showed up to vote.
Only 14,000 voters.
I know.
And it's 60% of the voting population, but we have 30,000 people.
Yeah, and we're going to wrap this up in a minute, but and again, you know, people had very strong opinions.
Oh yeah,
and they got on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever they wanted to, and they were like, you know, blah 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 blah, blah. And they argued with people, and people argued amongst themselves and whatever. But then so many people just didn't show up.
Yeah.
After all of that, all that wrangling, after all that opinion, after all the hurt feelings and things like that. And then they just didn't show up.
I just put Rhino Liner on.
Well, all right.
I'm out of it.
Anyway.
So going on to this week, we've got a lot of community events, and you wanted to get into. Well, first let me throw this plug out, and then I'm gonna turn it to you. The one about the turkey.
Yeah.
This is our last week for taking donations here at the Messenger.
Yep. Friday.
Yeah, we started doing this about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
And we've got a lobby pretty full. We've had lots of people, but we need more. So if you guys are out doing your grocery shopping, just pick up some of the things that we need. We're going to buy the turkeys. So what we need from you guys are, like canned items. We need instant potatoes. We need things along that line. We have a list, and it will be in the paper tomorrow. And it'll tell you the kind of things that we need. So if you guys can just pick up a couple of things and bring them in, if everybody just did a few things, then we'd have more than enough to meet the needs of these people. And, and that's what we want to do. We just want to make sure that there's so many people that slip through the cracks and they don't get what everybody else gets or, whatever. And that's the kind of people that we're going to look for. So what I want to say is in the paper that's coming out tomorrow, some of you will get it tomorrow. Some of you will get it on Thursday. There's about 2 or 3 stories in there that kind of go back to the election, that discuss the election. But I personally am ready to move on. I'm personally ready to accept the election as the results have been announced, and to take it and move on. And
God we trust.
Exactly. And so let's just leave it at that. Here's an important question. Do you have your Christmas tree?
I knew you were going to ask me this, Earlene.
Do you?
No, I don't even have. I still got Halloween decorations.
No, you
They're
don't.
laying flat in the yard. In fact, I walked past them last night. I got home late because I was still working on the move. That's another subject. We'll talk about it in a minute. But I was literally letting the dogs out last night. I came home. I was cooking. I had 2 different teams meetings.
Yep.
One for an association, one with you and your writers last night to
Yep.
make sure that went off without a hitch. And then I'm cooking. And I'm like, oh, the dogs are bothering me. And sure enough, I go out there and I walk out there and I forgot I got a ghost and a little cat that blows up that's laying in the landscaping. And I'm like, I still got to pick that sucker up. But I have one of the big jack-o'-lanterns like you do that stand up real tall.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal. Well,
Yeah. Kids are on me too because they're like,
well, let me
can we
tell
put
you.
up the Christmas tree?
No, people move straight from arguing and carrying on and debating about the election to bam. Immediately, people were wanting to complain about, I want to put my Christmas tree up. Don't put your Christmas tree up. I want to put my Christmas tree up. And then they get into, oh, you're insulting me. You're hurting my feelings. So let them do what they want to do to make them happy. Which, let me just say, do whatever makes you happy. I don't care if you put your Christmas tree up in September in anticipation of Christmas Day in December. This is just me, I don't want to put my Christmas tree up until Thanksgiving is over. I love November. I love that we get to November 1st and it's like, because, all the crazy of October.
Yeah, I just turned the pumpkins around and because it's still fall, and I turned the ugly face around, and all the people see are the backside of the pumpkin.
Oh, my goodness. I don't. I take down, I like to get rid of everything that is Halloween as quickly as possible after the 31st. But I do have pumpkins and autumn foliage and that kind of stuff up. And but I anticipate. So let me just say this. I think there's value to the wait. I think there's value to anticipating, to looking forward to stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like when we go straight from crazy Halloween, and then 1 week later we're crazy Santa Claus and elves and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have that. We don't have that peaceful time of yearning and waiting.
Yeah. So I have Stevie's birthday's coming up. And if I feel like if I put the tree up before her birthday, she's going to be confused because, she needs to have her birthday. So as long as it's after her birthday, and I'm okay with doing it around the Thanksgiving weekend, but we always try to set it up, on the Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, we do
after
too.
we
Like
broke
right
bread.
After.
Yeah, because that's like the
Thursday.
transition, right?
Right. Thanksgiving's on Thursday, so we try to do it, that weekend. Yeah, exactly. That's what we try to do as well. Plus, I was a teacher for 38 years, and it makes me crazy to mix my holidays.
Yeah, you lose all the history behind it.
I've got a big box, that's just for Halloween. I've got a big box that's just for Thanksgiving. I've got a couple of boxes that, are for Christmas and so on and so forth. My favorite months out of the whole year are May, September, and November. And the reason is because they all either come on the heels of an event that's happening or they're the month before. And so I really embrace May and September because we've got summer in between.
Yeah.
And summer's just one big beach party after another. Ooh, let's go to the pool. Let's do this. It's just boom, boom, boom. And there's vacations and stuff.
My favorite month is July when the Meade County Fair comes into town.
Well, I love the Meade County Fair. I agree with that, but that's kind of crazy too.
That's a season.
Yeah.
It should be a season.
Yeah, I get it. So, but anyway, so we've got that coming up. So a couple of things that are coming up in this week's issue. One is a fun thing. One of our writers, we were talking about turkeys and Thanksgiving and stuff, and she said, do you want me to write a story about my pet turkey? I was like, what? What?
You got a pet turkey?
A pet turkey. Oh, yeah. And
was this a pardoned turkey from the president or something?
No. But apparently she's had a couple of pet turkeys.
Okay.
And so she did. She wrote, it's very interesting. She wrote a great story about her pet turkey. And so you guys need to get in there and check that out because I think that'll be fun. Another thing that we're doing is... so one of my editorials for the week, and it was supposed to have ran last week, but we had a technical difficulty. But so I've got 2 out this week. But one of them's on thankfulness, and the story that I share about something that happened to me when I was 13 years old and how terrible that was. But what happened, the ensuing event that happened after that would have never happened. And so I was able to see the good in that. And I thought, that's a great story. everybody can go around complaining. You know, this happened. I ran out of gas. My appointment got canceled. I had a fight with my spouse. You know, whatever. You know, we can all go and list all of those things that are wrong. But in each and every single one of those, we can find a reason to be thankful. It's pretty hard sometimes because there's some bad stuff that happens, and there's bad stuff that happens that we have no control over. But if we look for that, if we look for the outcome, and sometimes it's not clear to us what that is. Sometimes it's not until we're much older or time has passed and we look back over it and you say, oh, that was terrible when it happened. But look at the friends that came out. You know, look at the the way that this got solved. I mean, it's a miracle. I never would have guessed that would have happened. And if we focus more on that, especially right now at this time of the year, I just think it makes us better.
Yeah. I want to, on that same thought, you talk about friends and people that you connect with. You know, I had the luxury of getting to go hang out with Landon and Liam this week. It was Veterans Day on Monday.
Yep.
And I just want to say a shout out to all my fellow veterans who have served our country honorably and who have, served whether in combat or overseas or in some capacity for our military services. It was interesting because they were asking me, like, do you have any friends in the Army? And I'm like, oh my Lord, yeah. And then another question they asked me was, do you keep friends everywhere you go? And that's probably one of the toughest things to do is because you develop close relationships everywhere you go. At least I always have. And we've made the most of every location or destination we've ever been to, and we never asked to go to any like vacation spots. We always went at the needs of the Army.
Right.
So if they told me I was going to go freeze in Minnesota, I was going to Minnesota, which we did, and 40 below weather in a fifth wheel. And it was cold, but we had some of the greatest friends between our church families and all that other stuff. And it was just interesting because the youthfulness of the children today, even my own, just their curiosity about, what's it like? Do you have a life in the military? And it was interesting. And I got to spend that time with other veterans who were there as well. Some Vietnam veterans were there, Navy, Army, a couple of Air Force and stuff. So it was a great day. But
well, wait.
when you were talking about
when you say there, where is there? Where were you?
Oh, we were at Meade County Christian School. That's where my two boys are going to school right now.
Right.
And but I'm sure throughout the school's system here in Meade County they were doing something similar on that day. But
absolutely.
It was just nice to go spend it with my very young children and go and do something with them. That reflects upon my own service, but the service of others in that day. And of course, they've got a new flagpole out front, and they're going to do a flag dedication for the people that put that up. And I'm just really excited to have shared that with our children because they had so many questions that you would think would be common knowledge of service for our country today, and it's just not common. It's just not. It's not talked about anymore.
They don't know.
Yeah, and we don't have many left of what they call the greatest generation. In fact, we're losing a lot of our Vietnam veterans.
Well, let me just interrupt here for just a second because you made me think of this. The after-school care program that I was in charge of before I became editor here. So the children are kindergarten through 5th or 6th grade, right in there. About a year ago, I wanted each one of them by themselves to stand up and by rote tell me the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag. You would be stunned at the amount of children that could not. So then I addressed their parents about it, and they were like, well, they do that every single day.
No, they don't.
Well, they do. Yes, they do. Oh, yeah. They get up every single morning, and they stand there, and they do the Pledge of the flag. But what are they doing? I mean, are they just slapping their hand over their chest and mumbling?
But do they know what it means?
They don't. They don't even know how to recite it, much less knowing what it means.
But how can you do it every single day and then not know it?
Because you're not paying any attention. You're not paying any attention.
There's no accountability.
It doesn't have the same value that it had when we were children.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, I'm not kidding. I bet a third of the population of the after-school care could not do it. And it was from itty-bitty kindergarten all the way through. I had some 4th and 5th graders.
Yeah.
And so the parents were actually like a little belligerent towards me. Well, that's just ridiculous because, why are we sending them to school? And da-da-da-da. I was like, well, have you asked them? When you're having supper at night or you're hanging out, say, hey, Johnny, Can you tell me the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag? Like, I would challenge everybody to look at their child right now and say, can you recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
Well, see, that's where I get. It's funny because if you watch the news and the media, especially during election season, they're going to destroy our democracy. Well, that's great because we're not a democracy. Mm-hmm. We're a republic, which means we're a country made up of laws, and we use the democratic process in order to. So it's a great argument. To learn, because that's what the pledge does. It's a pledge of allegiance, and that's what's frustrating when you see across our country, and news or like the riots for the why they're rioting. You would almost think that in some cases those actions are actually acts of treason, but everybody in this DEI stuff wants to. That makes it very weird.
I'm just saying that if they can't recite it, then they can't identify the meaning of it, and it's just that we're in such a busy world. Like children are getting picked up. Hurry up. We got to go to soccer practice. We got to go to archery practice. We got to go to taekwondo. We've got football practice. We got and they're just like boom, 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 boom all the time. And it's hard. It's got to be terribly hard to be a parent to young children today.
Oh, I can testify.
Yeah.
I got 3 of them. So
just so much harder than it was when I was raising mine. It's just rushed. Like I know children who are involved in 3 or 4 different sports or extracurricular activities all at once.
Yeah, no.
And it's just, I just don't know how they keep up. I don't know.
Well, I'm excited. Liam has gotten into the basketball program through the Baptist church here locally.
Good.
And
is that the upwards?
It is. Mm-hmm. Oh, and he nailed like 10 shots in a row. His dribbling sucks, but I mean, he was doing like the shots. And of course, they lower the goal for him, which is the size we have at our house, thanks to Mike Barberry.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, shout out to Mike. I got some shout outs today, too, because I got a special group of folks, and I know you got them in the paper this week. 75 years of service to our community. And they got one more new client this last week. So.
It's 45 years.
Oh, 45 years.
45
Sorry, 45 is still a long time.
That's a long time.
I actually met his dad, too.
Oh, yeah.
Years ago when we were here. But anyway, Ray's Ford. I just want to send a shout out to you guys and all y'all do over there, especially the pick you up and we'll take you back to work while we fix your vehicle or do an oil change.
Yeah,
phenomenal services over there.
We have a write-up about the history from the time they got started, how they got started, and everything that they've done here in Meade County along the way.
Yeah.
It's a really good write-up, so go ahead and pick that up.
So I actually have a Jeep. I have a Tahoe or a Yukon, and we have been waiting a long time for a Bronco. And Chris, his son, called me up this week, actually, or last week, I think it was, and said, your Bronco's in. And I'm like, you're kidding. And he said, nope, because we've been wanting a hardtop. It's hard to find like the hardtop version. They've got tons of soft tops, but the hardtop. And so they called me, and it finally came in. So now I've got to sell my Jeep. So anybody want to buy a Jeep, let me know.
So, you were talking about sports, and the Meade County High School football team, they ended their season on Friday.
They did.
Yeah. They lost that game. But on the front page of the paper is such a sweet dedication to them. It was written by one of our sports writers.
Good.
And it's very heartfelt. It shows a very sweet picture of them. And then you go back through to Section B, and you can go into the sports and read more about the actual action, the actual play. But that was one of the things I was thinking about, those seniors. That was their last game of their senior year. And those guys are just so bonded. Some of them have been playing football together since they were Liam's age.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Itty bitty. And so I want to make sure that, we shout that out. We also have some news from the wrestling. We have some news from the volleyball teams.
Archery's picking up.
They played last week, didn't play this week, but they're playing next week. So whenever...
Are you talking about archery?
Yeah, I guess archery don't play.
No,
what do
they
do?
shoot.
Oh, shoot. They don't play?
No.
They shoot.
I mean, they might play on their own time after they're done shooting.
Do you play golf or do you shoot golf?
No, you play golf.
But I thought you had to shoot it.
No. Archery has a target.
But you play basketball and shoot.
Hoops.
Yeah. Okay. See, that's just confusing. I'm not a sports
We
writer.
could do a comedy show on that. It would be like, what's the guy that does the watermelons and smashes and he says them and they and all the, anyway. He does
speaking of that, I wanted to do a pumpkin drop. over at the after school care, and I told Eddie's the general manager out there, and I said, hey, do you think it'd be okay if we climb up on the top of the S&T
Oh, no.
and then let the kids just drop their pumpkins?
I don't think the liability insurance would cover that.
He didn't say that. What he said was, who's going to clean it up?
Oh.
And I said,
we need to clean it up? There'll be a pumpkin patch there next year if we let it go.
Well, don't you think the deer and the raccoons and all that would come? Anyway, he vetoed that.
Oh.
So, yeah, I thought that would be a great science experiment. And it's in the season, in November. We have to get rid of those pumpkins anyway.
Well, I can tell you what happens if you leave a pumpkin and it rots in your flower bed underneath your stairs of your deck.
So you know this from personal experience?
I do. We had an entire pumpkin plant that grew out around. I let it keep going. The kids kept taking care of it, and they got, for one pumpkin the previous year, we got 3 baby pumpkins this year. And, of course, I went and pulled it all up, and it had the stem that was in the ground compared to the vine that was outside was like not even in comparison. It was crazy. But they had a good time this season with the fall, and it was a good time.
I think that's a great thing to happen. They remember that they had that pumpkin there last year, and then look what happened.
Yeah.
It grew out of there.
Well, we've got a garden already ready to go for next year, so we'll work that together and let them learn that discipline too.
Very good, very good. So anyway, I just when we put the paper to bed a while ago, Nancy and I looked at each other, and it was like, whew. Because it was, Mondays are crazy around here because it's our production day. It's the day that we format everything. We get everything. It's like a giant puzzle.
It is?
Making everything fit, because we had to put the ads in. We had to put the stories in. Writers are very passionate about what they write. And they're like, is it going to be in? Is it going to be in? Some things are more time sensitive than others. And so we have to make all those decisions. And so we got finished today. We sent it off to be print. I said, Nancy, it was a good looking paper.
It was a very good looking. Y'all have had several over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the work you guys have done. I know it's a hem and haw, especially with the move going on. And if you didn't know, we're getting ready to move.
Yep.
We're moving to 1141 High Street at the Raceway Plaza, formerly the old Pioneer Building, formerly the old Meade County RECC building. Does have greater parking and a greater appearance. The studios are also moving. So the Messenger Studios and the Messenger KY, formerly AKA the Meade County Messenger, formerly Meade County Kentucky News, formerly Meade County News, formerly it's had like 50
So when
names.
you purchased the Messenger, you also took ownership of all the previous names.
the previous names.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So,
I have a question for you. I know I'm bouncing around all over
It's
the place
okay.
today. So one thing that's so Mr. Joe Hager, who used to be a previous judge executive.
Yep.
So he wrote a story, and it's
I
coming
love
out in the
Joe.
paper. I love Joe. He was my principal.
Yep.
Mine and Eddie's
Battletown,
principal at Battletown,
Elementary.
Kentucky. That's right. Anyway, so he wrote a story about how the city council, the decision was made on a coin toss. So,
well, if we started with politics, we're going to end with it.
yeah, that's okay.
It's actually the process. It's not even politics. So it's an interesting question. I assume you want to know, how do they get to a coin toss?
Yeah, I want to know how you run for office. You go through, all the things you have to go through as a candidate to be elected into office, and then it's decided. But what you choose, heads or tails? Is it really that?
100%.
Okay, explain.
So, like an organization or anything, when they create or they're formed, such as, there's a lot of people would say that you don't need city when you got a county government, right? Or you don't need a county government when you got a state government. But each entity is formed. That's why you have a board and all of that stuff, and then they will be elected by the people. So it can't be an appointed. You can't just, I got to be in with the in group to get elected. The people get a vote. And in that situation, in this case, where the people have voted and there's a tie, it's obviously very expensive to do an election. Okay? So we know we had vacant seats that needed to be filled. So this was very many months ago, even when Mr. David Pace was appointed as mayor, because we had a gap, a stopgap.
Early in the year. Yep.
The city council voted for him to be the interim mayor. So he was appointed, right? So that power that they have to appoint, they also have the power to break a tie. And in that tie, instead of having to go back and re-vote and campaign and all that other stuff, once the county clerk provides the results of the vote that was cast on behalf of the city's elections, because they manage the election process.
Right.
It is then up to the city to do what is the coin toss in the event of a tie. Otherwise, it would be, several months, and it would be contested seat, and you wouldn't have somebody doing the work of the city's business. So they do a coin toss, and they both sit there. It's very formal. It's very as far as the presence, it has to be a quorum, has to be all of the people that have to witness it. It's a production, and then the coin toss is made, and it's made very public so that it was done in the best interest of the community, not good old boy system, right? Or good old girl system. Or good old person system, whatever DEI agent you need to follow for today's podcast. But that's how we get to the end state, period.
And it's completely accepted.
100%.
Yeah, because he snapped a shot of them, and they were very cordial, shaking hands. Both of them were smiling, and so that's.
And I think it was very good too. The people still represented that both would be good candidates. There's not a bad candidate in the mix. They both got the equal same amount of votes for the city of Brandenburg. And it's really down to the tie that, half the people wanted this person, half the people wanted that person. But both people...
I just thought that was so interesting that in 2024 that we still will sometimes decide an election winner based on an old-fashioned coin toss.
So, and that's why I'll go back to this. We ran a whole series on this for about 8 weeks, I think, if not 9 weeks, and I said we need to focus on voting.
Oh, yeah, why I vote.
Why I vote. And we need to encourage, I don't care what your party affiliate, I don't care who you believe in or who you don't believe in, go vote.
Yep.
Exercise the rights that I served for, that many other people have served for, to protect the freedoms that you have, and go let your voice be heard. We should honestly never end up in a coin toss. If every registered voter showed up, politics in this country would change overnight, because they know it's not going to take ads to win a campaign. It's going to take votes. And getting, if everybody mandatorily showed up just because they wanted to, not because they had to,
right?
Our politics in this country would change drastically.
Absolutely. I have no doubt. No doubt. So, all right. Well, I'm
just going to end like that?
No, I'm going to end it with the community calendar, if that's all right.
Yeah, roll on.
All right. So
you sound so enthusiastic about it. There's so many good things. And if you missed it last weekend, the Homemakers Convention that happened out at the fairgrounds. Oh my gosh! Every year that thing is awesome.
Great. It was so great.
I saw your live feed, and then I was like,
you couldn't stir a stick. I mean, it was. Yeah.
I was feeling so bad because I was working on the other place, and I really wanted to go.
Oh no, there were hundreds and hundreds of people there.
You know what I wanted to go back for? The thing that they make that you put a bowl of soup in when the bowl comes out of the microwave, it's really hot.
Yeah.
And you put that underneath the bowl so it doesn't burn your hands.
Right.
And you can still eat your soup, but it's not like this big towel clunky thing.
Yeah. And it folds up. It folds up.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah,
and I was like,
cool.
We should have went back this year.
Well, probably whoever did that is watching, and they could probably hook you up.
I would think so.
Yeah, I would think so too. Anyway, we've got lots going on. I'm going to give a shout out to North Hardin High School. This Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they're going to have their production. Their choir's doing a production of The Little Mermaid. And so if you look into the community calendar, it will tell you what time you can go, when you can go. I mean, I think what a great way to go out and support the community over in the Radcliffe area.
Yeah, don't have to travel far for some entertainment.
Oh, yeah, we've got lots going on. There's lots and lots of Christmassy stuff happening. Lots of people are taking up food. We've listed...
Since you mentioned Christmassy, I want to remind everybody this is the last week to get your requests in for Christmas by the River. If you would like to be a featured advertiser in this special section that we produce, this draws a lot of attention because everybody wants to know who's going to be in the Christmas by the River.
Right.
And supporting this year's Christmas light show for the city of Brandenburg and Meade County.
Yep. On Saturday, they're doing a ladies' day out at the Meade County Angel Ministry. It's in Brandenburg. That information can be picked up from the community calendar.
Ladies' day out. That means drop the kids with the husband and go out and hang out with the ladies of the community.
Well, now that you've said that, PG Studio, the art studio downtown, they're having a date night that night.
What?
So, yeah. So if the women go out, leave the kids with the husband, and get a babysitter, and then you can have a date night down there.
Right after they do.
That's exactly right. There is so much to do.
That could be a bad combination, though. though, Earlene, because then the girls have all hung out together. Then you go out on a date. You know what Jenny Jones got from her husband? Do you know what he did for her?
But how
come you don't do that for me?
Okay, let's go back to finding thankfulness in anything. You could
Oh,
find
there you
that.
go.
You
Okay.
could be like, oh, look, she's helping me. She's my little helper, helping me to be a better husband.
I hear you.
Yeah, see, you could do that.
I'm a hopeless romantic, though. Vicky, I try to do my. I made dinner last night.
Yeah, that was very sweet. Eddie's great. Eddie's wonderful at romance and being a good friend and keeping me happy and our home fire's blazing.
Well, you know where you can find all of these activities?
In the messenger.
Don't shoot the messenger, but come get a messenger. You can get it at your at several distribution points throughout Meade County, Radcliffe, and Fort Knox for our viewership.
That's right.
And if you have any questions for us, you can always go to themessengerky.com. You can create an account so you can access the other features of our website. And if you like what we do, you can also subscribe online for the print and or digital edition, and you can look at it from your tablet on hard paper. We deliver it to your mailbox.
That's right.
And if you had online access, you could also leave comments to us in the forums on the website. Or you can just lick a 75-cent stamp and stick it in the mail.
Are they 75 cents now?
Yeah, it's expensive.
Are they really 75 cents?
I could be wrong, but they're really expensive.
Wow.
Or you could spend, $4 a gallon in gas and drive over here and then drop it off through the door slot for free.
Yeah.
But it's either way, it's much faster on the digital. But for my letter writers and in-person greeters, come on.
I like it.
We'll take it, but you won't be able to get to us after Thursday this week. We are shutting our offices beginning tomorrow and all day Thursday. You will not be able to ring in, call us, because I'm shutting it all down and moving it over to our new location at 1141 High Street in Brandenburg. And we would be up and running at that location on Friday with limited services, but we'll still be getting all the stories in the news and covering all that. But some of our systems will be coming back up online on Friday.
Yeah, right. We should be good to go by Friday. Yep.
If not, it's going to be a rough week next week.
Yep. So are we having a guest next week? I think we are.
Oh, yeah. We'll get that out on social media.
All right. We'll get that out to you guys. But anyway.
I know we have Jim Bradford coming in on Wednesday next week, the 13th. Not the 13th, I'm sorry. Next Wednesday, the 23rd or 24th, he's coming in to talk about Fort Knox. He is the deputy chief of staff for Fort Knox, and so he's going to be coming out and talking about all those things. And don't forget that you can also go on our website and make a donation for the wreaths for the cemeteries on Fort Knox, and we'll make a contribution to that program for all the support. That's an interesting story, but we are out of time today.
We are, but it's been fun. I mean, we've talked a lot about what's going on. There's so much happening.
There is, and I think once we get past this move, I will be a little bit more energetic. It's just a lot to go through a move.
So this is our last Earlene and Steven show here at this studio.
Yeah, we'll be at the new studio starting next week.
Remember, Tuesdays at 2. That's when you guys want to tune in.
Or 2:03 or 2:04.
If it is after 2 o'clock, it's always Steven's fault.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take full responsibility.
Absolutely.
Hey, you guys have a great day. We'll see you soon.